The grotesque cracking sound that I heard in my head as the dentist rocked my bottom molar back and forth has been scarred in my mind for half a decade now. Under the blinding LED dental lights, I could barely see the dentist's dead focused eyes locked into the cavernous entity that is my mouth. Thankfully, the painkillers masked the majority of the pain, but there was still an otherworldly pressure and weight that I swore was going to rip my skull in half. Then, with an unceremoniously wet pop, the problematic molar was detached from my existence, and a part of me that I had carried for well over 2 decades of my life faded into oblivion. This occurred in late 2020. The governor of Minnesota declared a state of emergency on March 13th of 2020, and hospitals were overwhelmed with severe cases of the virus we're all familiar with. Many healthcare institutions put a pause on elective surgeries. Limited access to doctors and even dentist visits were difficult to obtain. My molar had a filling that had failed, and it became sensitive to pressure, sweets, and temperature changes. Due to the state's pandemic response, I couldn't get to a dentist in time for them to either repair the failed filling or do a root canal. A severe abscess had formed, and the only option I was given was to have the extraction. Thankfully, I was able to get a dental implant placed the following year, but even to this day, my mouth and bite have never felt the same. At the age of 28, I lost a vital part of me that was supposed to have lasted the rest of my life. Being on the cusp of 30 years old and watching the world evolve in such a negative way really made me reflect on my own mortality. For the first time in my life, and perhaps not the last, I began to feel the true weight of my age. Now flash forward to 2025. I'm 33 years old, married, own a home, have a couple dogs, and a full-blown career. I'm grateful for all the good I have in my life, and I do count myself as one of the few lucky millennials that's doing okay. But occasionally, that sinking feeling of growing older creeps up from the deepest, darkest depths of my mind, and it threatens to extinguish the tiny ember of youthful passion that still exists in my heart. But then I notice the persistent lower back pain, the ever-increasing fatigue, and mounting responsibilities. It all reminds me that youthful ember went out a while ago. I'm getting old. I'm no longer the 16-year-old that would stay up all night playing video games with his friends after attending a midnight release, or the 17-year-old that would damn near send himself to the ER from moshing so hard in punk shows, or the 18-year-old that, beyond everything else, desperately longed for a community where he could give and receive love. Those memories feel like they were experienced by someone else. It feels like all the highs and lows of being young happened in a previous life, and I've now been reincarnated into a new state of existence. It's easy to be pessimistic about growing older, but we should step back and realize how fortunate we are to have the privilege of advancing in years. The borderline miraculous fact that we exist in a time where science, technology, and medicine can help us live longer and healthier lives is something we shouldn't take for granted. I had a childhood best friend that passed away when we were in our teens. He developed cancer of some sort. I was too young to understand the severity of his condition, and his family moved to another state to seek treatment. For the longest time, I didn't hear from him until one day, his folks called my folks and I spoke with him on the phone. His voice sounded quiet, and it lacked the carefree and fun timbre that I had always loved. He told me something to the effect of, "Ivan, my friend, I'm so happy to talk with you. I'm in the hospital right now and they have me attached to a machine like I'm Luke Skywalker or something, floating in the healing tank on Hoth." We were both huge Star Wars fans and nerds. He told me that as soon as his treatments were done, that he would come back to Minnesota and we would once again play football, watch movies, and spend hours at the local arcade. He told me not to worry and that we'd see each other soon. I never saw him again. Years later, when I was in high school, his sister contacted my parents and told them that he had passed. This entire time, I wondered what became of my friend, and unbeknownst to me, as I endured the whirlwind that was high school, as I fronted a metal band and chased after girlfriends, my friend lay deceased and decaying in a grave. What hopes, dreams, fantasies did my friend wonder about while he laid alone in the sterile hospital bed? Did he see the sorrow and grief in the eyes of his family, or was he in too much pain to comprehend what was going on? Did he fabricate a vision of his future full of wonderful experiences? Maybe he looked forward to graduating middle school, going to college, getting married maybe? Or maybe he wanted to be an athlete or spend his life, his young adult life, or maybe his whole life, exploring the world. I'll always wonder what ran through his mind the last time he closed his eyes and never woke up again. That's the thing that haunts me the most, you know? He fell asleep and never woke up. He missed out on years of life, and here I am waking up to an imperfect world, complaining about aches and pains, but I'm lucky. And if you're listening to this, you're lucky too. I'd argue that we're lucky to be growing older. When I scroll through social media, TikTok in particular, all I see are people talking about how cooked they are because they're getting older. Basically, to them, if you're above the age of 25, then you have one foot in the grave, and if you're 30 plus, then you just don't exist anymore. I vehemently disagree with this hopelessness propaganda. Are there aspects of growing old that, for lack of a better word, suck? Sure. I mean, I miss my old hairline. I miss being able to stay up late, and I miss being able to bounce back so easily from injuries or diseases or whatever. I miss my old friends and the old neighborhood I grew up in. I miss the time when my grandpa was alive and Taco Bell was cheap. But we can't live in the past. Today really is the youngest you'll ever be again, so make the most of it. Here's my advice as an old man. I would say definitely take care of your body, brush your teeth, eat healthy, get some daily movement in, and try to do things that don't require a screen. And honestly, chase after your dreams and work hard to achieve your goals, but also remember to take a moment and soak in your existence. Enjoy being you. Don't feel anxious about getting older, because the time will pass whether you fight against it or not, so might as well just embrace it. As always, thank you for watching. Like and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one.